Welcome to Women in the Arena podcast, the podcast celebrating women doing extraordinary things in plain sight. I'm your host, Audra Egan, and our mission is to elevate the value, strength, and resilience each woman brings to the world. Without further delay, let's go ahead and start the show. Welcome in, everyone. I am so glad you're here. I am Audra Egan, your host of Women in the Arena podcast, where we celebrate women doing extraordinary things in plain sight. We have yet another remarkable woman here today that I can't wait for you to meet. Thanks for joining me, and let's start the show. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining me here today. I know your time is precious, and I appreciate you spending your time with us. Today, I have an amazing woman that I want to introduce you to. She is an incredibly strong individual. She has faced a life-changing event, and she did so with such grace and such attention to her own needs that I think that it is a good testimony and witness to those of us that need to make tough decisions and change our lives. She also is probably one of the most joyous people I've ever met. You just get into her presence, talk to her on the phone. That's the first thing that you notice about her, is that she just exudes joy. I hope that you will find that too. So without further ado, please help me welcome my friend Cindy Borden to the show. Cindy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thanks, Audra, for having me. I'm looking forward to our chat.
I've been looking forward to this for a while because you are a fascinating and remarkable person. As I mentioned at the top, that you have gone through a life-changing experience, one in which that you took control of your own life and basically changed your destiny. So before we jump into that, give us a quick introduction of yourself, and then we'll jump into your story.
Great. Well, as she said, I'm Cindy Borden. I live in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and am a true Okie at heart. I am single and have 3 adult children and 7 grandkids who are the joy of my life. I love gardening and golfing and all sports of all kinds, and especially family activities. So I've been working in the financial services kind of industry since high school, actually, and love what I do. So that's about it.
That's a lot. You have a very full, rich life. That is a lot. Cindy is well loved. She's also mom to many. She's known in many circles as Mama C. So I think that you will get that sense from her today. Cindy, tell us about what your history has been as you decided to take control of your life. So will you walk us through what you did and what that process has been in doing so?
Sure. So I married young. I was 19 years old when I got married, and was head over heels in love with this man. The first few years of our marriage were very good, and I think as I matured and came more into my own, things got a little rocky. It kind of correlated a little bit with his losing a long time job and kind of sinking into a little bit of more of insecurities and maybe jealousies of the confidence that I was gaining as I became more secure in the things that I was doing. We had our first child 4 years after marriage, and that seemed to cause even a little more stress. Not necessarily disagreeing on how to raise a child, but more if he didn't know what to do, then it was somehow a reflection of him as an inadequate person instead of just being a new parent. Our marriage over the next, for 30 years was tumultuous at best. There were times that he was abusive in all types of ways. And I, made the decision to try to stick it out. I felt like I'd made a commitment to this man, and there was part of me that thought there may be, a mental illness, but I, in good conscience, didn't feel like I could leave him for that reason. He wouldn't seek help himself. And so for me, it was like, if he had some sort of physical illness, I wouldn't leave him. I can't leave him in this situation, and just tried to really do my best to be the buffer between the children and my husband, until finally he decided that he needed to move back to the state that he was from and kind of find himself again as we were approaching our 31st wedding anniversary. And for me, there were a lot of things that kind of came, tumbling down. I was 50 years old. I had never lived alone. And I went from, living at home with my parents to college with roommates. And after college, was married. And so it was a little overwhelming. And all of a sudden, I didn't have to answer to someone or, take anybody else's needs into consideration. All of our children were grown. Our youngest child had just graduated from college, and she had moved out, a few weeks after he left. And so I was truly an empty nester, in the house we had raised our children with, and was by myself. And just, felt like I'd kind of come to a crossroads. I think this can happen anytime during life. It isn't necessarily with some major event. I think sometimes change, or the pain of change pain in life will force you to make a change. But for me, I realized that I was going to have to kind of take charge, and I had the option of just sitting there and kind of pouting and feeling sorry for myself that I was single after all these years and my kids were grown, and now what was I going to do? Or I could really be intentional about where I wanted my life to go. And I opted for plan B, to do that instead. And, over the past almost 7 years, it has really, truly I've had some of the best years of my life these past 7 years.
By simply making a conscious decision that after 30 years of being defined one way, it was now up to you to define your life in another way.
Yeah, exactly. And, for me, it was things that were actual physical acts. So, he left on a Saturday morning, and sometime within a few days, I realized I had an empty closet. And so I started a project from one end of my house through the other, and went through every cabinet drawer, every dresser drawer, every closet, my pantry, my piano bench. I literally went through everything in my house and purged it, not necessarily things that reminded me of him, but maybe things I had, hung on to for so long, clothes I, knew I'd never wear any longer. And, 3.5 months later, I had felt like I had kind of reclaimed my space, that, this was now my home and not the home that I had shared, with another person. That for me was really, kind of a burden lifted. I didn't have to worry, about what anybody else thought. I also kind of redecorated some of the rooms and laid new carpet and put on new paint and those sorts of things that just kind of made this house my own. It had always been kind of a safe place for me, and I felt very like I couldn't imagine ever leaving here. So for me, that was really important to kind of just claim it for myself. And after that, I was really intentional about forcing myself to do things with other people. I worked from home, and so it was very tempting to just put in my 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and then, make my way to the living room to watch TV, or the kitchen to fix dinner, and just kind of isolate myself. And so I purposely, reached out to friends that had been very supportive of me, during the marriage with the conflicts that were there, friendships that I had really cultivated, and opted just, let's have dinner, or let's go have a glass of wine, or let's do something that forced me like to put on clothes and some makeup and make sure, I had showered and got my hair ready and, did those things. Otherwise it'd been very easy just to kind of stay at home and not, put myself back out there. It was, because it was different. All of a sudden I didn't have, I was single, and that was very odd to me after, 30 some years. I just wasn't used to that. So there were things that were like physical acts, and other things were just more of an emotional, just kind of seeing myself that I could kind of write my own story and didn't have to, be concerned of what somebody else thought I could or couldn't do. A lot of times if there was something that I needed done around the house, it was made to believe that it was so hard to do that he didn't really want to do it. And I for sure couldn't do it, was kind of the message that he gave. And so as I was redecorating, kind of the rooms, I thought, well, what the heck, I'm going to try to put a shelf together, try to put a dresser together, and bought myself a pink toolkit because I was going to, it was going to be girl, it was going to be for me. And literally I wasn't perfect. And I remember I put together this little cube shelf for the room I have for my grandkids things. And like I went to pick up a piece and I sliced my leg open. I thought, who hurts themselves, cuts themselves putting together a shelf? And I'd managed to do that. But nonetheless, I got it done. And it was just little things like that I kind of felt empowered and just thought, well, I'm just going to give it a shot. And the worst thing is I'd have to have somebody come help me, and found out that I really did have basic skills, to put a shelf together, or a dresser together, or hang a picture on the wall. And it really wasn't that hard.
What I'm hearing is in this life-changing event, you made small choices to move yourself forward. And you mentioned something that I'm a big proponent of, which is changing the energy of the space. So you basically went and gave yourself joy, if you will, by
Yes.
cleaning up your space and clearing the energy out of the room. And while I realize that that was no small feat because you were cleaning out a house of 30 years of memories, it is indeed one small step into becoming somebody new. And I think it's transformative. Uh, do you, you clearly demonstrated that, but were you feeling that when you were going through your house and purging? Were you feeling this internal transformation?
Yeah, it was very invigorating, and like I said, kind of very relieving. As I took clothes to donate to various places, some that take professional clothing for women, there was a sense that, kind of out of my sense to kind of rid my home and claim it my own, that I was helping other people. There was a sense for every, dump the trash that came, that there was part of me that was cleaning out those parts of my life that had just been bad for so long. And it gave me a focus. It was something that, until I was really quite ready to kind of put myself out there, that I could have something to do each night and didn't have to worry about being bored. I'd raised 3 kids. They were extremely active. And so there were not a lot of nights that after work I came home and sat down. It might be 10 or 11 o'clock at night before I was really done with dinner and homework and laundry and all the things that happen, when you're raising a family. And so for me to sit after work and not have something to do was odd. But all of a sudden there was nobody to do anything for except myself. And and so I think, for me, it was kind of a cleanse, so to speak. I'm a fairly organized person anyway, but it was amazing to me the things that I found at the back of the cabinet, that I had moved even from home to home, that it was like, I don't know why I have this anymore. And, just became really intentional about what I kept, and how I organized things. And like I said, just, made it mine.
You said something key that I'm picking up on, which is intentional, because you were intentional with what you were keeping in your home, and then you said that you were intentional about reaching out to friends and putting yourself out there. Was it scary at first when you were putting yourself out there as a new person, so to as a single person?
Yeah, it was because, you don't, for me, I didn't know how people had perceived my marriage. We did a lot of things together. We were in church every week. I knew there was conflict, but you never know how your extended group, and obviously, our family and close friends knew that there had been problems for years and years and years. So for me, it was not a sense of shame, but just something new, and kind of just more, I was willing to be honest about what had happened, not placing fault on any one person. It was an agreement that we kind of came to together. but yeah, it was a little scary. And there was always this fear of rejection, that the single part of Cindy wouldn't be the same as the married part for what it's not necessarily a founded fear, but it is that kind of that sense of what are they going to, what are they going to say? And because it kind of, I mean, he just kind of left. There was no any sort of announcement. I had let a few of our close friends know, that he was leaving, but it wasn't like we were separated for any length of time. He decided to move, and when he found a job, he left. And until then, we lived in the same home. And so it was scary, but I knew that I needed to do something to keep moving forward, or I was going to be stuck in a rut. And I didn't want, there was part of me that was a little excited about what I could do, because for so long I felt that I'd kind of held back with some of the things I wanted to explore, so as not to make him feel inadequate or inferior, that I could do things better. And, kind of what I learned is that people had seen the strength in me all along. And that was very, it's kind of assuring that I was going to be okay by myself.
So what did you found out about yourself that you didn't know before? You had said that there were some things that you wanted to try that you maybe held yourself back from. So what did you do that was off limits before and suddenly the world was your oyster?
Well, yeah, I mean, just starting with even like little household duties. I mean, I was always responsible for the cleaning, all of the laundry, the the cooking, the cleaning, those sorts of things. But when it came to putting furniture together and making a decision, I could decide what kind of carpet I wanted, or what kind of furniture I wanted in a bedroom, or how I wanted to do it, and not have to, make sure that, it was going to meet his needs. And I don't mean that to sound selfish. It was just, I could make those decisions by myself. Part of what I do requires traveling, and just kind of, I had recently changed jobs where I was having to travel to new cities and, leave a home by myself and drive to the airport. And I've thought, hopefully if something happened, somebody would miss me, so that's kind of scary when you realize nobody's going to know if you come home or not. And so that, that took a little bit, I think, more courage, to kind of do that. I will tell you that one of the hardest things for me was walking into the church building by myself. We had gone to church as a family every Sunday, and sometimes more than once a week. And to walk into that building that's supposed to be a place of comfort, which it truly is, but to be by myself, I felt very alone. I would literally have to give myself a pep talk as I walked up the steps of the church. And, I took up more like sports activities. I started, golfing more. And I guess when new things came along, for example, I was asked, the company that we work for was having a conference, and they wanted me to take a group fly fishing. And I can promise you, as a married woman, if I would have said to my husband, they want me to take them fly fishing, he would have said, you're not going to be able to do that. That's really hard. You're left-handed. You're not going to be able to do it right. It's just never going to happen. And, the man that I'm seeing said, I think that's great. I think you should start watching YouTube videos and get an idea of what to do. And I had the best time. And I can promise you, I would have never put on waders and crawled into a stream, with some clients to fly fish if, a few years before, if I would have been married, I don't know that I would have had the confidence to do that. So what I learned is that the more that you try things and they work, or you don't die in the process, I mean, even if you're embarrassed and you don't succeed, it's not, even if you fail, it's an event. It's not your life. Right. And so
I think I think that is something that should be a motto to everybody, that you try something that fails, it's an event, not your life. That is so profound that you had just said. Um, Everybody should live by that. And then nobody would live with fear.
right. It's just, I think sometimes that's what cripples us. And so I had to learn, I think part of it for me was learning to get rid of the narrative that was inside my head, right? Is that it's too hard, or you're a girl and can't do it, or, those sorts of things. I took control of my yard. He always kind of mowed it, and trust me, I don't have a lawnmower and don't ever intend to mow it, but I was able to do the flowers I wanted. I was able to, garden the way that I wanted to garden. And, designed flower beds and those sorts of things that we would have never done. Um, I think just because of the dynamic, if the yard was his domain and I tried to, to insert my opinion, I was kind of crossing that line. And so for me, I was able to kind of just really try new things, put in edgings or try different flowers. And if they died, then I tried something else the next year. So, and I wasn't afraid, to ask for help if I truly needed it. And trust me, there were times that I failed. I know my youngest daughter and she needed curtains hung in her apartment. And she's like, do you think we should call somebody? I'm like, no, we don't need a man. We can do this. And quite honestly, I tried to hammer a screw into the wall. And the curtains came crashing down at 3:00, in the morning, 2 nights later, and was a miserable fail. And we laugh about it to this day that, we were trying to do something we really didn't know what we were doing. And I've since learned, but like I said, you just have to kind of try those things. And if it fails, then you get up and you do it again, try something different.
I'm just so in awe that you came to realize that even after having this identity after 30 years, this just shows that you're always evolving, you're always changing. And it sounds like, as you mentioned before, the last 7 years have been the most amazing of your life. It sounds like over the last 7 years, you've really been able to come into your own and explore what's possible for you, what is and what isn't. What has been your favorite adventure over the last 7 years? I mean, fly fishing is pretty darn cool. I have to say that. That is pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
And I realize that this is a podcast and people can't see you, but just to give you guys a mental image, Cindy is always perfect. Always. Hair, makeup, nails, clothes, always done perfect. Nothing is out of place. She looks like she wakes out of bed and, the birds sing around her head. Just to have this image of her in waders and fly fishing is awesome. So that's pretty cool. But I know that you have other things that you have topped.
Yeah, I think, I kind of mentioned that I'm seeing somebody and, because we are at the point of lives that we don't have any kids at home, we're able to do a lot of traveling. We've left the country a few times. We've gone to beautiful beaches and places that, I probably wouldn't have done. We both love sports and we've been to some college playoff games and things like that, my ex-husband and I did not agree on the same football team. He was loyal to the team from his home state, and I was loyal to my Sooners. And so we were not going to go to a playoff game and each enjoy it obviously as much as the other. And just I think things that I've learned. I've always kind of been somebody who loved to cook, but we have tried new recipes and baking things that I probably would have never tried before, just when you're trying to please, one person's palate, not trying the things that you want to do. But I think the traveling, because I've got, the freedom to do that without, having children at home, that I probably have enjoyed the most, because I've seen parts of the world that I think I probably would have not seen yet. And there's still just so much more. I'm kind of a planner and I like to plan what we're going to do, and where we're going to go. And for me, it's nice to have somebody to do that with. It doesn't, is not a constant roadblock. It doesn't want to do those sorts of things.
You're such an amazing example of what is possible. And I had mentioned at the top of the hour that being around you is just joyful. You have this part of you that you just can't help but reflect joy to everybody that you meet. And you've been through a lot, as you've just indicated through your story. And certainly your transformation was not easy and it was definitely hard fought. But you've always been able to maintain this joyful perspective. How have you done that? Because that's not easy.
Well, first of all, Audra, thank you for those kind words. That means a lot to me. And once again, I think maybe I didn't mean for the theme of this to be intentional, but I do try to find something to be grateful for every day. And even in the midst of the times of my, the really hard times of my marriage, because it wasn't all bad, obviously, but there were times that were really rough, I still looked for the good. I think sometimes if you look for the good, you will find it. And because I live in Oklahoma and we have great sunsets, I at the end of each day, I really do reflect, like, what did I do today that's going to matter tomorrow? And, because I'm never going to get this day back. And I think for me, it's just if you look for the good, you're going to find it. If you, you know, it, smile at people, they're going to smile back. I mean, sometimes it used to drive my kids crazy in the grocery store because I smiled at people as we passed them in the aisle, and they were like, "Quit doing that." But it doesn't cost anything to say hi to somebody or to smile at somebody, and that in turn reaps so much benefit, within yourself. And I just, I have had loss in my life of close family and friends, suddenly, and I know that life can change in an instant, and you just don't take things for granted. And so for me, I've just made the choice, because I think it is a personal choice, to be happy or joyful. Even, there's not days maybe I feel cranky, but for the most part, I choose joy, and, look for those things. I surround myself with things that make me happy. Was just joking. I bought a bunch of flowers. I love the color pink, and I think 80% of my flowers are pink. So, when I look outside, I'm going to see pink, and that's going to make me happy. I think those are just things that, I just surround myself with people who are going to bring me joy, and try to just avoid the drama of things that won't.
I think that that is important to hear, that you choose joy. So then you intentionally put things in your life that make it easier to make that choice, even if it is your pink flowers, or saying hello to strangers in the grocery store. Uh, I think that that's powerful, that you choose it both subconsciously and unconsciously through your surroundings and through your actions, which with practice, I'm assuming gets so much easier to do than maybe at first when you start out and it might feel uncomfortable. I know that there are some people that are listening that may be in a similar circumstance to you, or have to make a giant life change and is terrified or doesn't know where to start. What would you say to those that are in that spot?
Well, I think sometimes, quite honestly, for me, the hardest part was making the choice. Like I said, our marriage had conflict for, many, many, many years. And once, we finally agreed that it was best that, we divorce. I mean, he was leaving the state, and I really didn't want to stay, married to a man that didn't live here. I think making a choice one way or the other, to me, was the first step, instead of kind of living in this back and forth. And then after that, it was, trying new things, not being afraid of failing, and being intentional, that you can't just expect either people to come to you or things to change if you're not being proactive about that. And for me, that was kind of, I think, the big differentiator. And then just try to make the most of each day. Like I said, more days than not, when I see the sun going down, just kind of say, did I do good today? Did I change somebody's life today? What memories am I going to take from today? And truly be thoughtful about that. There's always something to be thankful for, even in situations where, it's bad. I think there's still things that you can be grateful for, and trying to have that attitude of gratitude. And I know that may sound cliche, but I really do try to live that. And, throughout the year, not just in the month of November. And, I think, like I said, it may not be divorce. It could be a job change, or your kids leave, or you just decide that you've had enough of the life the way you're living it and want to do something different. I think making that decision one way or the other is the first step. And then, um, you know, being intentional and trying new things and not being afraid to fail. And then just, a good perspective, a grateful heart, I think will go a long way.
I think that that is incredibly wise words. And I'm hoping that whoever needed to hear it, that's made an impression on them, because it's it's a strong and powerful message, and I am grateful that you have shared that with us. And I'm grateful that you've been on my show and being so transparent and vulnerable with your story, because it's not easy. You said at 50 years old you had to remake your life, and I did it one step at a time. And you have given us a blueprint on how to perhaps do the same thing for ourselves. And I appreciate that. There are three last questions that I need to ask you
Okay.
that I ask everybody. And I've been really interested in everybody's responses because they've been so different. So here's goes. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So first question, what are you currently reading?
What I'm currently reading, and now my brain just went blank. Killers of the Flower Moon. It's about some Indian murders in Oklahoma back in the early part of the 1900s.
Wow. That is a big, heavy book. That is not, romance,
Oh no, yeah, I'm not a romance. I mean, I love romance, like trust me, but I'm not a romance novel reader. So that's my latest read.
well, wow. Good for you. This will be, so my next question will be really interesting. I actually can't wait to hear what your response is. Uh, what are you currently learning?
Well, I had a total knee replacement about 2 months ago, and I'm learning about perseverance and that your body takes time to heal. I'm not one that really likes to sit still very often. And I'm kind of being forced to do that, to be patient and let my body do the things that it needs to do in order to have the long term effect that I want after undergoing the surgery. So for me, it's pushing through on the physical therapy visits 3 times a week. And even if it hurts, to the point that I can keep going, obviously there's a point you don't want to push through the pain. So for me, I don't want to say I'm learning patience because that always scares me to say that, but I think I'm learning a little bit of patience with my body and just letting it, do what it's meant to do and not trying to push the timeline.
That is so hard to do.
Yeah.
Um, I'm also not very patient with my body. So like you, I don't sit still very well. So that's a really, really difficult lesson to learn. And just for fun, because I explained to everybody that you are all girl all the time. Just for fun, will you please tell everybody what you did with your walker as you were recovering?
Well, I figured if I was going to have a walker for, at least 4 weeks, that it was going to be pink. And that really did improve my mood. I also love animal print. So I bought a cane for the next, several months that's animal print. And, it's just little things like that, I think, that kind of just help my mood and my perspective, I guess. And so, yeah, I rocked that pink walker for a good 4 weeks and then turned it over to my leopard cane, and it's all good.
I love that. Even in your recovery, you were intentional and choosing joy on purpose with your pink walker.
Yeah, I thought, well, let's just do that. But not going to have an aluminum gray one because that's drab and dreary, and it's the middle of winter. And who knew the virus was going to hit? We were all going to be at home anyway. So yeah, I picked a pink walker.
That's awesome. So my last question for you is, so what is next for you?
What is next? Well, it's interesting because we're talking about new things. Immediately for me, I would say what's next is I'm going to have my first experience of purchasing a car as a single woman. And quite literally, it's terrifying. I am not one that, I mean, I will negotiate contracts, for my company, but when it comes to my own negotiating for a car, it kind of makes me want to, throw up a little. And so for me, I've decided to take a pretty logical approach to that. I've picked out 6 or 7 cars I'm interested in. I've done some research on those. I've prepared a spreadsheet. I'm making schedule appointments to test drive them Now I'm taking somebody with me just for to sit in the back seat and for another maybe perspective, because I want to, it can't be strictly all emotional for me, nor can it be all logical. There has to be some emotion in it. And so for me, I think that's probably the next hurdle. I've dreaded this for years. I'm not exaggerating on that at all. Just the thought of having to buy another car has just, given me a little bit of anxiety, but it's not going to stop me. And I'm not going to have somebody do it for me. So that's immediately what's next for me. Obviously getting, healthy with my knee is an ongoing thing over the next few months, which has kind of impeded me for some of the things that I really enjoy doing. But I know it's necessary now in order to be able to do things long term. So that's kind of where it's at.
I think that is a really good next goal. You'll have to update us and tell us how it went, because you never know. It could be a good time. It may be more fun than you think. You never know.
Could be. I've test drove a few vehicles and that all went well, and asked the questions I wanted to ask, and they were respectful of me, and so we'll see what happens. Now it's just making the decision.
Yes. Now it's just setting your mind to do it and doing it.
Right.
Well, I will go ahead and wrap us up, but Cindy, thank you again for doing this and sharing so much of yourself with everyone. I adore you. I truly love being in your presence and having friendship with you. So thank you so much for your time in doing this. And I'm certain that the audience will see exactly how I see you.
Well, Audra, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. And, if this will help somebody make the change in life that needs to be made, or even the little steps to get the life that they truly desire and deserve, then I'm happy to do it. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you. And we'll see you all next week, and we'll enjoy the week. Thanks so much. That's our show. Before I let you go, I have some business that I need to get to. First, I want to thank my guests. I am continually awed at your generosity of spirit and the vulnerability that you continue to bring to our conversations. To you, my audience, you are incredible. Thank you for growing with me, and I hope that I continue to exceed your expectations. And to my team that helps me pull this off every single week. To our composer, Star Diva, who is amazingly talented. To Alan Bruckner, our graphic designer. Thank you for taking my crazy ideas and giving it life. To Savannah Boster, our social media manager. You do this so much better than I ever could. And last, but certainly not least, our producer, my number one son, Gavin Egan. Thank you for supporting your mom with her dream. I couldn't do this without you, kid. Please follow us on our socials at Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram at arena_women. See you next week.
This is just the beginning.
That's our show. I am so grateful for each and every one of you and your unwavering support and your continued belief in this movement that has become much bigger than me, much bigger than just a podcast. It has become this forward momentum that we are all doing together. If you are ready, or you know somebody that is ready to tell your story and share your value with the world, please connect with me. You can reach me at audra@womeninthearena.net. I am so honored and thankful that you will share your story with me, and I'll make sure that it is well taken care of. I will never stop thanking each and every one of you, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next week as we share another woman's story and we celebrate her doing extraordinary things in plain sight. We'll see you next time.